Hello, this is Michael Williams. I'm here today with Emma. Thank you so much, Emma, for joining me today. We're actually kind of in the middle of one of our sessions. And as with many of my clients, you were just saying so many insightful and brilliant things that I felt like people who are out there who are either current clients, students, or thinking about getting into the Pro 90 speech system, particularly the coaching, they're going to benefit from what you're saying. So I said,
Brilliant.
let me just put let me put the recorder on here, and you were so graceful to allow me to do that. Now, you live in the UK.
I live in the UK. Yes,
Okay,
in London.
in
Yes.
London. So the first thing that I want to talk about is tell me where you were before you started and kind of how you felt, what you were struggling with, and why you decided this.
Okay, so I was a ball of anxiety. So I had a big exam coming up on the horizon, and that's like a panel interview, which in my mind terrified me because all I could imagine was being in that room and not being able to speak
Mm,
at all. Just being overwhelmed with anxiety, no words would come out. The people opposite me thinking, who is this person and why is she here? And then in my organizational work as well, I was having meetings upon meetings and I was struggling to get through those, to really articulate myself. I used to dread them, you know.
mm,
So I had a meeting every day. I have a team of people that work for me. And even though I was telling myself, I'm going to be all right, I'm going to be fine, I was racked with anxiety. And it would
mm,
be very often that I'd get into a meeting and I couldn't speak, or I'd mumble my way through something, or I would avoid it at all
right.
costs. So
And
yeah.
you work in two worlds now. You went through your oral interviews to officially get your license,
Psychotherapy. Yes.
psychotherapy,
Yes.
and you work in this other world.
Yes. And the other world is kind of HR, organizational work. So
Okay.
that involves a lot of meetings, a lot of influencing people, a lot of talking to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and so what made you seek me out? How did you find me, if you can remember?
I've been on a mailing list of yours for quite a while, and I think I
Okay.
kind of had you in the back of my mind, but kind of
Mhm.
always thought, well, you know what, I can handle this on my own. I'll just watch a YouTube thing every now and again, and that will help me. Right. And it
Mhm.
did help me in the beginning, but
Mhm.
then I guess as things became more overwhelming, I thought, no, I probably actually need to talk with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Okay.
I liked your approach because you've experienced this as well.
Okay.
You're not just somebody coming in who's read a textbook to say, well, actually, if you do this, it will help. You're a person who's been in it, you know, and
Exactly.
tried things and modified things, etc. And that was really helpful for me.
Wow. Okay. So tell me about and you mentioned this already, but tell me about the overwhelm because we're gonna go from there into the single focus strategy, let's call it. But tell me about how you felt overwhelmed, even with the things that I was giving you, the strategies you just felt like, okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So overwhelm is a key theme for me, I think. So I'm the sort of person, as I mentioned before, if I do something, I want to do it perfectly.
Mhm.
Right, and I don't like to miss anything out. So, you know, obviously after we started talking and I got access into the system, I went through all the videos, I was doing everything as you said, and I got all these tips and tricks and tools, and I thought, great, I need to do this.
Mhm.
And I was doing it, and some of them came easier than others, but then something weird happened, something that I didn't really anticipate. I felt really overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, I've
Mhm.
got to remember how to do everything and I've got to get it sequentially right and it's got to flow and I can't make any mistakes. And I was driving myself mad with this. And I felt like if I missed something out, you know, I'd failed. Other people could get this right and I couldn't. You know, I tried to allot a certain time of the day whereby I practiced talking to people, etc. And
Mhm.
it just wasn't good, right? And I think that we had a couple of coaching calls and you got a few emails from me going, it's not working, I can't cope, I can't cope. Yes,
Exactly.
I'm feeling really overwhelmed.
So then we had a call and we talked about the single focus strategy.
Yes, which I have to say changed everything for me. So it was almost like you gave me permission to let go of well, not even let go, park it. pick one thing that was going to really help me model, right, and focus. And
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed when I get stressed and anxious, I speak really quickly. And I
Mm-hmm.
speak because I just want to get it done and out of the way. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, as you know, and as many people will know, when you speak quickly, it becomes like a garbled message. You're not really articulating or enunciating your words.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was chopping words off, and it just became this horrible mess. So what I began to focus on was slowing down,
Yes.
really slowing down. And when I'm talking to somebody, even in meetings with people, looking at them. Because I
Mm.
also noticed I got into this habit of looking everywhere apart from at the person.
Yes.
I thought, okay, slow down and look at the person. And
Right.
then in parallel to that, just working on what I was telling myself before the meeting
Mm.
and in the meeting, because we've spoken about that too,
That's
in
right.
terms of me thinking I was going to fail.
Yeah.
So me really keeping myself calm. I'm okay. This is okay. Trying to take the focus off of me and just
Yes.
put it on the other person, and just think I'm okay. I'm calm. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were perfect. You mentioned three or four critical things. Um, these are not in the order that you said them, but one is what you're thinking about before the event, could be a meeting or presentation, interview, and what you think about during the event, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that you're able now to talk to yourself with that single focus to tell
Yes.
yourself, relax, slow
Yes.
down, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here, Michael, and say, you know what, you say it 100 times and then magically it happens. It's something you have to keep on with. And I
That's right.
think I kind of fallen into that trap before where I thought, well, I'm doing the stuff and it's just not embedding itself. I can be quite impatient sometimes, but it's
Hmm.
something you have to just keep doing. And also another thing I found really helpful is not, I think before I was allotting like an hour a day to go out and model and practice. And then I'd revert back. And that just wasn't helpful. I couldn't switch modes easily. So what I do now is every conversation is a practice. It doesn't matter who, if I'm speaking to my best friend or my
That's right.
family, or I'm at work and I'm presenting to people.
That's right.
It's the same.
So people who are familiar, who are watching this and are familiar at all the with the Pro 90 speech system will remember that I say you need to immerse yourself and that every time you open your mouth to speak, it's practice time. So it's not just 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, or listen to this
Yeah.
every time, all the time. And then it starts to become automatic.
Yes, yeah, 100%. But I don't think I was in that place before. I don't think if I'd have met you and automatically off the bat you'd have said, Emma, you have to do this 24/7. I think I would have felt overwhelmed then as well. I think it was something I had to discover on my own.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting insight. Right. And this is the reason why I repeat things in our
Mm.
sessions and in the audios, and why I have you listen to the audios over and over for this very reason, because we all grow and you'll hear something in the very beginning, but maybe you're not ready for it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you keep listening to it and you keep hearing me say the same thing. Well, Michael Williams repeats himself. Well, I do it purposely for a reason,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
at some point, and usually it can be a couple of months, at
Mm.
some point you're ready for it and it
Yeah.
clicks. It makes
Yeah.
all the difference, right?
Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's zoom in and then we'll wrap up. Let's zoom in to the interview, right? Interviews. So since the last time we've talked, which has been a couple of weeks, right?
Had
Tell us
4
what's
interviews. Uh, so this is for my organizational work.
right.
I go into organizations, I assess how they're working, I restructure teams, so that's firing people, hiring people, etc. And an interview situation is quite a nervous one. So you sort of anticipate, oh my goodness, I've got to go in there, I'm going to be under pressure. But again, I just applied everything that I've been learning with you. So like I just said, any situation, it's the same. It doesn't matter if I'm in an informal situation or if I'm in an interview. So I had 4 interviews. So one of them was external to the place I work at the moment, and 3 of them were external. all four had offered me work, all four of them. And it
Mm.
was instant. And I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. I mean, I enjoyed all of those interviews to be able to sit.
Four, and you enjoy
Four,
it.
four.
And you
I
got
actually
four.
enjoyed them. It felt like a conversation with a peer almost. I didn't have in my mindset that I'm like this little person and I've got to impress you and oh my
Right.
goodness. I went in there with a very neutral mindset. Like if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, that's okay. And it was like a conversation.
Yeah.
And what really impacted me, Michael, was seeing the expression on their faces. Like
Mm,
really engaging with what I was saying, really understanding what I was saying as
mm.
well.
So you mentioned a couple of things in our conversation, and you've alluded to them here, but what were you focused on and telling yourself while you were interviewing?
Whilst I was speaking, I was saying to myself, okay, this is an opportunity for me to see what this place is like, to see what these people are like, to understand what they can offer me, rather
Mm-hmm.
than me feeling pressured and like, oh my God, I've got to perform, I've got to impress you. So this is
Right.
like a two-way conversation. So
That's
that for me takes the pressure off of me.
yes.
So then whilst I'm in the interview, I'm doing obviously the self-talking to myself.
Mhm.
And then I'm focusing on the person in front of me and kind of what I'm saying to them and how the message is going across, rather than being caught in my own mind and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to run out of air or I'm going to run out of words.
Mm,
So
yes,
keeping that pressure and that internal focus off of me and just
exactly.
going to the other person.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because there's so many people who struggle with when they're in the moment, they're in an interview, they're doing a presentation, they they're struggling now. They're
Mm,
struggling now to keep that focus. Even though you might feel a little anxious, but you can still perform well,
yeah,
though you feel a little nervous or anxious.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
self-talk has a lot to do with it. And what you do physically also has a lot to do with it.
Yes, yeah, and that's another important part. So, even walking to the interview, as it was in a building over the road from where I work, just walking slower, just kind of taking my time to look around me rather than hurrying there and getting locked in that mindset of hurry, hurry, hurry. So, yeah,
Mm,
so the build up to it is very important. But then for me, being in there and keeping that composure and that calm is even
yes.
more important, I think.
So what you say to yourself before, what you say to yourself during, focusing on the other person is something that we've talked about called VIC, the value that you're offering, the impact that you're having. You're watching them. You're seeing, am I having an impact? The clarity. Am I making this clear? Am I going too fast? Am I speaking clear? Am I structuring this? So you focused on that. You slowed everything down. You've been telling yourself just to slow everything down and take your time, right? Is there anything? Oh, and the single focus. You've been focusing on one skill,
Yeah,
one strategy, one technique, and you do that for as long as you need to until you feel like
yeah.
it's starting to become automatic.
Yeah, and I think, as I said earlier, for me, it's like now I like to look at it like building up a picture. So I build up the first part of it, and when I become more comfortable and fluent with that, then I'll move on to something else.
Yeah.
But that helped me tremendously.
So if someone, and I know that there are going to be probably thousands of people who will see this video eventually, right? And many of those people are going to be where you were
Mm.
a few months back. What would you tell them about coaching? What would you? Because some of those people are working on their own, right? They're watching YouTube videos,
Yeah.
or maybe they're taking my course and they're getting varying results. But you decided, hey, I need to talk to someone. I need the account. What
Yes.
would you tell them about taking that step, about the investment?
Okay, so I think for me, the main benefit is it forced me to be accountable. So before I was watching videos, I was doing the self study myself. But when I sit in front of you, Michael, and I go through kind of what I've done and maybe my thinking and my thought processes around things, and you might question me a little bit or say, have you tried this? Have you tried that? That that forces me. to really look at myself and maybe think, okay, I need to adjust this. Because for me, I can get stuck in a pattern, and that might not necessarily be the most helpful pattern.
Hmm.
So, as challenging as it has been at times, where I think, oh no, I've got to explain, why this isn't working, or I'm getting stuck, etc., it's really, really benefited me.
Okay.
It makes me accountable, I think, is the main thing.
Well, Emma, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this and gotten so much out of our conversation. And I'm sure everyone who's watching this will as well. So thank you for being willing to do this.
Not a problem at all. Thank you. Bye.